If you had asked me a week before Christmas whether my family would spend the holiday arguing about a wedding, I would have laughed. We had always been loud, opinionated, and occasionally dramatic, but Christmas usually acted as a reset button. Whatever disagreements existed during the year stayed outside the front door. That year was different. My younger sister Emily had recently become engaged. She was thrilled, and honestly, so was I. She had found someone kind, patient, and grounded. The wedding planning, however, had taken on a life of its own. Each month, the plans seemed to grow. A larger venue, a designer dress, a live band, a destination honeymoon. Every family gathering included another conversation about upgrades and priorities. I stayed out of it, not because I didn't care, but because I had learned something after years of building my business. Money changes conversations. The moment people know you have it, they often stop asking what you think and start assuming what you'll do. Christmas dinner began like every other year. Children ran through the hallway wearing matching pajamas. My grandfather argued with my uncle about the best way to carve a turkey. Someone burned the dinner rolls, and nobody admitted it. For a while, everything felt wonderfully ordinary. Then dessert arrived. My mother stood and tapped her glass with a spoon. "I have something important to announce." The room quieted. She smiled toward Emily before turning to me. "We've all agreed that since you've done so well for yourself, you'll be paying for Emily's wedding. Family takes care of family." For a moment, I honestly wondered if she was joking. Then my father stood beside her. He nodded confidently. "I think everyone here agrees. It's the right thing to do." I looked around the room. What caught my attention wasn't agreement. It was uncertainty. Several relatives suddenly became fascinated by their coffee cups. Others exchanged confused glances. My grandmother slowly lowered her fork without saying a word. Instead of arguing, I asked one question. "When did I agree to that?" Nobody answered immediately. Finally, an aunt spoke. "I thought you'd already offered." "So did I," one cousin added. Another relative admitted. "Your parents said you wanted to help." The conversation unfolded like someone slowly untangling a knot. Nobody had actually heard me make a promise. Instead, each person had heard a version of the story from someone else. An assumption had quietly become accepted as fact. I turned toward Emily. She looked genuinely uncomfortable. I thought Mom had already talked to you," she said softly. That sentence changed everything. She hadn't demanded anything. She had trusted what she'd been told. I took a slow breath before speaking. "I love you," I told her, "and I'd happily help if we had a conversation about it. But helping someone isn't the same as being assigned a bill." The room stayed silent. My grandfather finally cleared his throat. "When I was young," he said, "people confused generosity with obligation too. They're not the same thing." Nobody interrupted him. He continued, "A gift loses something important the moment it's demanded." Those words settled over the table far more effectively than any argument could have. Emily surprised everyone next. "I don't even want a wedding this expensive," she admitted. Every head turned. She explained that the budget had gradually grown because everyone kept suggesting upgrades, a nicer venue, better flowers, a larger guest list. Someone would always say, "Don't worry about it." Without realizing it, dozens of small suggestions had become one enormous expectation. The wedding no longer reflected what she wanted. It reflected what everyone imagined it should be. I looked at her. "What do you actually want?" She smiled for the first time that evening. "I want to marry the person I love without starting married life buried in expectations." That felt like the first honest sentence anyone had spoken all night. I told her I wasn't comfortable paying for a luxury wedding I had never agreed to finance, but I also told her something else. "If you'd like help building your future instead of one very expensive day, I'd be honored to contribute toward your first home or emergency savings." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I'd rather have that." Dinner slowly resumed, not because every disagreement disappeared, but because the conversation finally became real instead of imagined. Over the next several days, relatives called to apologize for assuming instead of asking. Some admitted they had simply repeated what they'd heard. Others confessed they never questioned the story because it sounded reasonable. That experience taught me something I still carry today. Families rarely fall into conflict because of money alone. More often, conflict begins with assumptions that nobody bothers to verify. Generosity is one of the strongest ways we can express love. But generosity only keeps its meaning when it's offered freely. The following spring, Emily married in a beautiful ceremony surrounded by the people who mattered most. It wasn't the most expensive wedding our family had ever imagined. It was something much better. It was honest. And years later, that's the part everyone still remembers.